is up, guys, and welcome to episode 18 of the BAMcast. I'm your host, Baker Shields, and it's my goal to help you to learn, grow, and evolve by any means necessary. Today, we've got an extra special episode. We've got Brad Bromlow joining us. Him and his wife, Aubrey, have created Memories Over Macros, a huge coaching company within the coaching space. They've created Fat and Weird Cookie, which all of you have probably heard of and probably consumed one of their products before. And Motive clothing brand and so many more things inside of the health and fitness space, and food space as well. So this episode was extremely cool for me because Brad and Aubrey have always been someone that I've looked up to. But also not only from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but also the relationship side of things, because Brad and Aubrey run their businesses together, and they work together and are spouses, obviously, and they've got their beautiful baby girl, Letty, that they are raising and everything. So just everything that they are going after in life and currently doing is kind of, you always hear people talk about, interview people that you are doing what you want to do in life. And that's kind of what I got to do today with this interview. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. And I hope that you get as much out of it as I did as well. So without further ado, let's hop in and talk to Brad Bromlow. What's up, man?
How are you? Good to be here.
I'm good. It's I know we briefly talked last year, I guess, whenever you came on, or we briefly met for brunch, which was awesome one time. When you guys were just kind of coming through Dallas, you, Aubrey and Letty. But we briefly met also whenever you came on and kind of like gave a talk to me and Mike's entrepreneurship group, right when we first started working together. I don't think I ever really, how did you and Mike even meet to start off?
He slid in my DMs.
Okay, that sounds about right.
No, so I think that his ex-wife, now Abby, at the time followed Aubrey, and I think Abby had mentioned me as like this couple that she liked, and we were in New York City, and he like DM'd me and just like, hey man, I used to live in New York, like here's some places to check out type thing.
Mhm.
And then, I respond to all my DMs, even to this day. Like I respond to every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so, I responded, we talked, then, whenever they got closer to Texas, like both of them, then we like met up at the gym and worked out together. And, I think we just kind of had this like entrepreneurial journey. Mike at that time had already, I think coffee had launched before
Yeah.
Fat and Weird. And then we launched Fat and Weird. And I mean, Mike even came over to like look at potentially like being a partner in Fat and Weird, in the early days. We had talked about stuff like that. So, but yeah, so Mike's just been, he's been a really great friend to have, someone to, I can bounce a lot of ideas off of,
For sure.
And so.
Yeah. Speaking of Mike, and I don't want to give him too many flowers or talk too good of him. So have you seen, I don't know if he's posted anything yet, but have you seen his haircut yet?
I have not, no.
Dude, this morning, just out of nowhere, Paula, his girlfriend, texts me, and she says, okay, so Mike did a thing. Whenever you guys hop on your team meeting this morning, like, don't freak out. And I was like, what? What did he do? Like,
Does he have a mullet or did he shave his head?
he shaved his head, bro. He
Yeah.
shaved his head this morning.
Yeah.
And he actually looks great. I'm not making fun of him or anything, but it was just caught me way off guard seeing that this morning. So I didn't know if he'd posted it yet, but by the time that this is out, everyone will for sure have seen it.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about you. So I have so many questions. I was telling you before, I hope this doesn't get too annoying, but I have so many questions for you because I think everything that you guys have accomplished in business is amazing, right? But I also am very, very interested in the dynamic of a couple that are both high achievers and both really into entrepreneurship. And so you guys are kind of into fitness and into entrepreneurship. So it's kind of all the things that I'm really interested in. So I wanted to ask, what were you and Aubrey, your wife, what were you guys doing before you kind of met and before like the socials took off? Like what did that stage of life look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I was in the military. I was
Okay.
in the Navy. I was doing nuclear power on submarines. So I guess the quickest background story is, I graduated from high school, went to University of Florida, got my electrical engineering degree, joined the Navy, and to do nuclear power. So I lived in Charleston, South Carolina. I lived in Groton, Connecticut, and I just kind of bounced around doing the training. And then I ended up getting stationed in a place called Bangor, Washington, which
Okay.
is near Seattle.
Okay.
It's literally like it's only 12 miles away from Seattle, but it's like an hour and a half from Seattle because the Puget Sound is literally
Got
in
it.
between. There's a
Yeah. You
giant
gotta
body
drive
of
around
water
it.
separating them. Like you can stand on one shore and see the other shore, right? And
Hmm.
so you have to take a ferry to go across. Like it was a really cool experience being younger and like driving your car onto this ferry and like taking your car across, or just you could
Oh,
walk on as
so
well.
it's like a
Oh
big
yes,
barge
they're
that'll take.
massive.
Okay.
Yeah, they're massive. Yeah,
Yeah.
they hold like 200-300 cars, you know.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, you go across there. You like they'd have like parking like 4 lanes down the middle. You'd like park 2 lanes on the side. There'd be an upstairs area. Like it's yeah, you're driving all over
Do
the
you
place.
get in something like that? Do you get out of your car, or do you just sit in your car the whole time?
You can sit in your car. You
Okay.
can get out of your car. Like they have convenience stuff in there, so you can go get a drink. You can go
Wow.
get hot dogs. You can go to
That's
the bathroom.
that's
You know.
crazy.
So I think it was only like 15-20 bucks to take your car across.
Wow. That's actually not as bad as I
And
thought.
then one of them, if you walked on it, was free one way, and it cost money the other way. So
Mm,
I think it was only like $7 though total, you know, round
yeah.
trip walk on. But yeah, so I got stationed up there, and then um, the last like 3 months I was actually stationed there. Aubrey and I met on Tinder.
Okay.
She at the time was she's a speech language pathologist still, but she was practicing SLP 4 days a week, and then she was teaching at a CrossFit gym 1 day a week.
Got it.
And so we matched on Tinder because we were only 12 miles apart, but we were, you know, hour and a half away from each other.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we started doing the commuting back and forth to each other. And we had met at the end of May, and I was like leaving by like middle July.
Hmm.
So we literally met, and I was like, when we met, I was like, hey, I might go to grad school, might go get my MBA from UW. I don't even know if this is a good score, but I got like a 680 on my GMAT. So, you know, University of Washington accepted me, University of Florida accepted me. So I was like, I think I'm just gonna go back to grad school. Like everyone, I feel like for entrepreneurship and business, they always get like MBAs, you know. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's what I
Yeah.
needed to do. But I said I'm going to go to a hiring conference too, just because the hiring conference was mainly in the Pac Northwest area. And I was like, you know, if I want to be closer to Aubrey, like I probably need to stay up here. So I went to this hiring conference. And I interviewed with Honeywell and Stryker and Medtronics and like all these Tesla, all these companies that you know you're familiar with,
Yeah.
um, and ended up getting a really good offer from a chemical company called BASF in Houston, Texas.
Got it.
So I told Aubrey, I
So
was
wait,
like, "Hey,
this is a couple months into you guys just meeting and starting to
yeah,
date, and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
already thinking like maybe I should try and stay close to her, and
yeah, yeah."
that's awesome. Okay.
Well, within a week, Aubrey had already told me that she loved me. Like within a week.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
We had been dating, or we had met in person on like May 19th and May 25th. She's like, "I love you,"
What?
and I was like,
So she
"Yeah."
said that. Did you did you just kind of like okay?
So the way she said it, it was like almost like it slipped up
Yeah.
through like, you know, playful things. So I
Yeah.
just kind of like played it off, you know. But then
Hmm.
later that night, I was like, you know what? I love you too. So,
Yeah. I was
um,
so I got married in June. So we're me and my wife are 7 months deep or whatever, 8 months deep now. And I was super it was like a you kind of know pretty early on. I feel like I posted some stuff last week about like knowing if somebody's the one and how people that's what you always wonder when you're dating is like should I fight for this, right? Do I know like how do I know this isn't the person that I'm supposed to be with and like push for and all that stuff? And
yeah,
then people always say like, well, when you know, you know. And it's kind of it really is kind of just a feeling that just like knocks you on your butt immediately whenever you kind of really meet that person.
yeah,
But I remember being so scared to like say it to her because I'm like, I feel like she might, but I don't know if she does. And so I was kind of like, I got to tell you something. I just got to get off my chest. Okay. So that was like me. I just kind of was like, take this or leave it, whatever.
yeah.
And then she was like,
Luckily,
oh, me
Aubrey said
too.
it. So, yeah, luckily Aubrey said it, so I didn't have to like
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
the
I
first
wish
one
you
to
would
put
have.
myself out there on there. But no, I mean, like, so literally, you know, we met at the end of May. I think the hiring conference I went to was like in June,
Okay.
and at the same time, I went to Montana to visit her family. We've been dating a month, and
Yeah.
I like went to Montana to visit her family. Her brother was graduating from dental school at the end of May, beginning of June. So I had kind of already met some of her family. This, you know, this like new boyfriend's here. You know, they were very skeptical. She had a bad previous relationship where the guy just wasn't a good person. So they were just like very skeptical of me. And then in July, she came down to Panama City to visit my family and meet my family. And while we were down there, I knew that in August I was starting work at BASF. And so her plan was to apply for some jobs down in Houston and just kind of see how long it took and like, just go ahead and like flush out some opportunities.
Yeah.
And she ended up getting a phone call in July while we were in Panama City from a company saying, "Hey, we want to offer you an SLP job." It was like 30% more than she was making in Seattle. And it was in a school district. So she had like, I don't know, 3 months off out of the year, three and a
Yeah.
half months,
Yeah.
because they get like 2 weeks for Christmas, like a week for Thanksgiving, and then they get like summer pretty much. So she
Yep.
got like, 3.5 months off. But they're like, but the catch is we need you to start at the beginning of August when school starts. And so we talked and she's like, well, I guess I'm moving down there with you. And her family was, not a huge fan of that. They were like, you're moving across there, the stranger, like what if things go wrong? You're going to be in this area, and all this stuff. So, it was definitely different. I think when you first start dating someone, you spend months usually getting to know this person before you
Mm-hmm.
even think about like moving in together.
For
Within
sure.
3 months, like we moved in together.
Mm-hmm.
So we were learning stuff about each other like that you would have figured out in the dating process, but you just figured out a lot quicker when you're living with someone.
Yeah, it's kind of like an expedited process because you guys
Yeah.
were just exposed to each other that much more than the average relationship.
Yeah. And then, I come from a very religious background. Like I'm a Christian. My
Mm-hmm.
parents did not like the idea of us living together, not being married. And so I literally told my parents, I was like, honestly, if I could marry her tomorrow, I would do it. It's just the whole pomp and circumstance of getting the engagement ring, setting a date, doing all that stuff. So I said, if that's really the big deal to you, like, then just know that like I'm going to marry her,
Yeah.
and they felt better after I said that,
Mm-hmm.
but there's not the real commitment until the real commitment
For
comes.
sure.
But
Yeah.
we met May of 2015. We got engaged July of 2016, and then we got married in May of 2017, and then we had an actual wedding ceremony in December
Got
of
it.
2017 with like all of our family and everything.
Wow. That's so that me and my wife Kinsey, we were on a pretty similar like time frame. It was we didn't move in until after we got married, but it was pretty much like a few months in, I kind of knew and was telling everyone like, "Hey, just gonna prep you. Like, this is kind of the one for me." And she was like, she had like that timeline in her head of like, I want to date for X amount of time, and then I want to get engaged
Yeah.
after that. And so we met in college and everything. And so whenever we got like, I followed her to Texas like immediately. I'm from Oklahoma, and we got down here, and she started like actually working after college. And I think when she kind of got into like a real like routine and everything and was like working and all that, she immediately was kind of like, okay, like I'm ready now. Whenever you want, you can ask me. So it was pretty quick from there. It was like we were engaged within a year and then got married. We took like a 14-month engagement, and then got married pretty quick after. But I feel like with you guys, it's always so crazy because I knew that you guys had the whole Tinder story, and there was something about a tiara in a message or something like that.
Yeah, it was literally it popped up on my feed yesterday, I think on Facebook, because the night before was when I had my farewell party, so that like puts you into perspective. In like March, we had
Mhm.
started doing my farewell party for the military because I was
Yeah.
leaving in the next like 3 months. Like they start doing that kind of stuff because they actually left on deployment sometime in like early mid June. So like I was in the military still for like 6 more weeks while they were gone deployed because they're not going to take you
Yeah.
take you on this
That
huge
late.
deployment just to send you right back off.
Mhm.
Um, so um, that Tierra photo was my farewell party from the military at Chuck E. Cheese. Everyone always did like breweries and all this stuff, and it was like you sat there and you were just kind of like, man, this is boring. Like we got to sit
Yeah.
here and talk to the person. When you go to a dinner with like a group of people, you're sitting at a table and you're only going to talk to like the 5 people around you, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then and it's like you're there for 2 hours with a group as big as that. So I was like, I'm gonna do it at Chuck E. Cheese. We can get pizza. You can walk around, talk to the people you want to talk to. You can play games. You can leave
Yeah.
whenever you want. No one's going to know. You can just kind of like skedaddle, you know?
Just sneak out.
So we had a really good time. They told him it was like a little girl's birthday party. So that's why they brought a tiara and all
That's
that stuff.
awesome.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But that photo is what Aubrey like messaged me from. Her very first message to me was nice tiara. And then we started talking.
Perfect
But
pickup line. Perfect pickup line. I feel like you
yeah,
guys have such a like high school sweetheart type of vibe. That's why I think it's so interesting that you guys met on a dating app, because it's and that was probably like earlier on in Tinder too. So it probably wasn't, what it kind of has become today, I feel like. But
yeah,
that's
it wasn't as much hookup
yeah,
culture, but I mean, it was still prevalent on
gotcha.
there. I think anytime you put a matchmaking service together,
Yeah,
people are looking to just hook up too.
for sure.
Um, but when we moved to Houston, Aubrey was like, or is still, but like was very fit. I was very fit. And people were just like, hey, what do y'all eat? What do y'all do for workouts and stuff like that? So we actually went to Rob and Dana and Bailey's Warehouse Gym Camp they did in February. It was like literally Valentine's Day of February 2016.
Okay.
Aubrey didn't even know who these people were because she didn't follow social media stuff. But I just kind of explained it to her, and she actually really admires Dana Lynn Bailey for the like pushing outside of the norm of like female fitness, that you can lift heavy weights, you can do that stuff, and you're not manly, you still have femininity to you,
Yeah.
um, and kind of like girls can be strong, this women empowering movement. So Aubrey really liked that aspect of it. But we went to that, and after being there, Rob literally started following me on social media and was just like, hey man, you got what it takes to like y'all people will want to follow y'all.
Hmm.
And so I literally built a computer like the next couple months so that we could edit YouTube videos, and started like researching cameras and ordered our first cameras and started making YouTube videos and posting on social media. And, we went from literally when Aubrey and I met, like I had like 3,000 followers, which was actually a lot back then. And she had
Yeah.
like 800. She always thought it was weird that I had so many followers. And then, uh, you know, through the course of 2016 to 2018, she grew to like almost 200,000 followers. And then, I grew to 50-ish or something like that. And so, then we just kind of keep going ever since then. But yeah, it really just started for people being like, what do you eat? What do you do for workouts? Like how do I get
Yeah.
fit?
Yeah, and I feel like that's how everybody kind of gets their start. And what you guys, it's similar. It's crazy. I didn't know the Robin Dalen Bailey part as far as like them kind of encouraging you to do it, but it's a very similar kind of story to them. I feel like is if you like Rob always talks about how he was the one that kind of spearheaded. Like I wanted to start documenting what you're doing and just putting you out there, and for Dana, right? And then Dana blew up, and Rob like captured the whole thing, and they've created businesses and everything around it. And so you guys have a very, very similar. Did you look to them for a lot of inspiration with all that, like how they
Yeah.
handled that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think I'm very fortunate that like Rob, kind of mentored me occasionally, like I mean, we were to the point where like we would text each other.
Yeah.
I remember being in New Jersey on a trip with BASF, and Rob called me because I had called him earlier, so he's called me back, and I talked to him about the fact that like I wanted to quit my job, and
Hmm.
like I wanted to like go out into. At that time, we were just going to do social media. We didn't really have like the cookie company or anything like that. We were just going to do our online coaching. We were both coaching people at that time, and then we had our sponsorships. Aubrey was with like Hydro Drug and Junk Brands, and we were sponsored by actually their Rob and Dana Supplement Company, Run Everything
Yep.
Labs.
Yep.
Um, and I remember Rob, he told me, he said, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I said, well, that I'd have to like it didn't work out and I'd have to like go get a job again. And he said, so the worst thing that could happen is you would end up pretty much where you're at right now. Maybe less a little bit of money, obviously less a little bit of time, but like in general, you're just back to where you are right now with the skills you already have. You've learned new skills along the way. So it's like he's like, I just feel like it's a no-brainer because
Yeah.
you make the jump because you don't really have anything to lose. And at that time we didn't, our house was pretty much paid off. Um, we had really good paying jobs and we had banked up a good amount of money. We had no real expenses, so like it was easy. Now it'd be much harder. Like I have a kid, you got to worry about all that
Yeah.
stuff. It gets a little bit more difficult. the
For sure.
more responsibilities you add to your life. But at that point, so we took the advice and we jumped, and we were just fortunate to start Fat and Weird at the same time as we quit our jobs, and Fat and Weird turned into something way bigger than what we thought it was going to be.
So I didn't realize that was backed up to. First of all, that's such a brilliant reframe too of for a lot of people, because I get that question a lot too. Is like, how do I know when my side hustle should become my main hustle, or how do I know if this is even worth pursuing, or the whole security, because there's something to be said for income security. Although some people argue, and the more radical like entrepreneurship viewpoint is like it's not ever secure if someone else controls it, right? But
Right.
like that paycheck you can depend on to a certain extent. So that's a brilliant reframe from him. Just like, if everything goes to shit, like you're just going to be back where you were.
Right.
So I really like that. But with what you guys were doing in that time frame, I didn't realize that the start of Fat and Weird, like you were still working up until that point. So you were working your day jobs, you were doing the social media thing, and you were working on these sponsorships and coaching, and
Yeah.
then got into Fat and Weird. Because
Yeah.
when did
So
Memories Over Macros start?
So it actually, like, the first company, the company, that umbrella company that holds like all of our social media companies, is called Determine Your Worth. Like, at the end of
Okay,
every single one of our videos, we say you're worth it. We've been saying that since like 2016.
that's awesome.
Um, and it's something that, like, I always wanted as a tagline, like people have, like Nick Bear's "Go One More."
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that end their vlogs a certain way, and I always wanted something. And the more I thought about it, it's just like everyone is worth it. Like, you're worth putting effort into yourself. You're worth improving, like whatever it is, you're worth it. So that's kind of like that tagline stuck. And underneath the Determine Your Worth, we have Memories Over Macros coaching and stuff like that. And then we our sponsorships and things like that. But that's kind of like how we structured that side of the business. But
okay,
Memories Over Macros really started because macro counting wasn't mainstream at all.
hmm
I mean, in 2016, I mean, there were people that did it, but it was not
yeah. I mean, people weren't
mainstream.
talking if it fits your macros or anything like that at
No,
that
like the
point.
CrossFit community was like paleo, or like this very like diets that were just like this, don't eat this or do eat this type thing. There wasn't this like track your macros, you can fit in ice cream and still reach your goals type thing.
Yeah,
Um, and so we would be talking all the time, and Aubrey said something one day. She was just like, memories over macros, in the aspect of like, not that you can just go like YOLO, but
hmm
sometimes it's okay at Thanksgiving to not worry about weighing out all that food. You can still make good decisions. You can still not get 4 slices of pie, but you don't need to obsess over that one instance,
you don't need
to
to
the
be
point that
neurotic, basically.
that ruins your entire experience. Like, do you want to be at Thanksgiving pulling out your food scale? And I get it, if you're in a contest prep and stuff like that, then there's obviously things you need to do. But like, for the day-to-day person, you don't need to pull out your food scale and weigh out your mashed potatoes and weigh out your gravy and all that stuff. Like, you just make smart decisions. You just need to be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do 1 spoonful of mashed potatoes instead of 4. I'm gonna get white meat chicken instead of dark meat.
hmm
But you don't need to be like neurotic, like you were saying, over that. And that's kind of where Memories Over Macros came about. Is the whole idea that like you don't want to track macros for the rest of your life. So you need to get to the point where you have this balance with food,
Yeah,
that just because there's a cake on the table doesn't mean you need to eat the whole cake. Like, you can take a bite and be like, man, that was a good cake, and walk away.
hmm
Um, and not be like, I need to eat the whole slice now since I took a bite. Like, my everything's ruined.
for sure.
Go
Yeah,
all in. So, but that's kind of where Memories Over Macros started. But April of 2018, Aubrey surprised me for my birthday, because my birthday is April 9th. She had people send cookies to our PO box that we had in Houston. We had a PO box because we had a decent amount of followers, and people would want to send us, like, we love candies and sweets. We'd have people sending us candy from different parts of the country and like all that stuff. So she had people send cookies, and we had thousands of cookies sent. I mean, from places you've heard of, like Levain Bakery, and City Cakes, and all these other places, to like homemade cookies that we were just trying. I was like, hopefully someone doesn't poison me.
yeah.
Um,
Seriously.
but we tried those all, and I was like, I think that there's a very niche market of cookies missing, where like you can do like gourmet cookies that are executed on the Levain Bakery level. Like, I love Levain's cookies, but were more fun flavors. Because at that time, Levain literally did like chocolate chip walnut, oatmeal raisin, a chocolate peanut butter chip, and maybe like a chocolate. It was like 4 cookies. That's all they did.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything crazy. And so that's when the idea for Fat and Weird started. And my aunt has a baking background, and she had done like some dessert catering on the side. So I was like, hey, help me kind of come up with these recipes. So she helped me develop the first few recipes and actually like worked with me from when we actually officially launched in August, like all the way till March. So for like 7 months, she was like the baker until she was just like, this is turning into something way larger than I thought it was going to be. And like, you're going to have to hire full-time staff, and,
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep up. So, but that's how Fat and Weird started. And we thought at first with our social media following, we'd sell 500 cookies a week or something like that. And it would be an extra, I don't know, $500 that we could put in our pocket. That was just, hey man, this is $2,000 that you're making a month, like
Yeah.
extra income from this side hustle. And, the first order was like over 1,000 cookies, because we just did 6 packs and we'd sold like 200 of them. So there's like
Okay.
1,200 cookies sold. The next week, we had sold like 300. Then the next week it was 500. Then the next week it was 800. And like by the time, we got to February, we were selling 1,000 cookies in a matter of 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'd be sold out for the whole week.
Wow.
And that's when, I decided that it was time to like leverage that and go full time in that. So we left our corporate jobs though in August also. So like literally the moment we left our corporate jobs, we launched Fat and Weird. I think
Got it.
like I was still at my corporate job for like a week after we launched Fat and Weird, because my aunt was doing all the baking and stuff down there. And then we came down and were a part of it after that.
That's so insane. I didn't know it was that close. So, with Fat and Weird, I know you guys have obviously scaled it much, like kind of where you left off that story. You guys have scaled it much, much, much further. And I don't, you probably don't know this, but whenever we were working with you guys with the agency, a lot of like the entire, like Alex was working on that SKU sheet, like the
Yeah.
breakdown. I mean, we all like as a team went in there for hours and we're helping like compile all the stuff in there. That
Yeah.
thousands, just to give like the listeners an idea, thousands of SKUs,
Yeah.
thousands
Cause
and
we have,
thousands and thousands, and
cause we've
everything's
done like
got a mega, right? And then
well,
it's
we've done
got a flatty.
150 flavors, and then you got like the mega, the regular, the flatty, the little weirdo version of some of the cookies,
Yep.
the edible cookie dough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it comes out. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a
It's a
lot to
lot. Do you have any
balance.
idea how many SKUs you have?
I mean, I think it's probably just a bit over 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because I mean, it's like I think there's like at least 100 and let's say 170 flavors, and four times that would be like 680, and then there's some that have other ones. So yeah, right around 1,000 probably. Yeah.
Gotcha. And how many SKUs are you guys actively carrying at a time usually? Because a lot of
Oh,
those are like limited editions or certain times of
yeah.
the year.
Probably 30, 40, probably like 60, 70 SKUs at a time.
Wow. The logistics behind that, especially with these being it's not like clothing, or I've got a equipment company. It's not like grips and straps and like where you just grab one thing and then you're just shipping that one. Like you have to plan for all the ingredients that go into all of these things, and to be
Yeah.
able to scale these recipes into the different types of cookies. And so how big of a pain was that figuring that portion of the business out?
Well, I think that, when a business grows, even though it was rapidly the way we were doing it, it's still growing, and you have that chance to like start putting processes and things into place as you grow it. And
Hmm.
so, we kind of had built out sheets that have our recipes on them, and you could input like how many cookies we were trying to make, and it would tell us about how much flour and eggs and stuff that we would need. So we could
Yeah.
start like projecting out inventory. Now we have like super robust systems that we'd say how many cookies we're going to produce over the next 3 months, and it gives us exactly what we need to order. And
Hmm.
we have a full inventory management system. Like we scan in our ingredients. Like
That makes
we
sense.
have a huge process now. But I think just like whenever you're growing a company, you have two different options, in my opinion. You can grow to like stabilize it at some level and kind of like set it and forget it. And then you have another option of like growing a company to like take it to as far as you can take it. Because in a company, growth is the hardest part. It's if you're comfortable where you're at and you're just like build out your processes, kind of get everything into this like homeostasis,
Mhm.
like equilibrium, it's easy. It's super easy. It's growth that is hard. It's,
Yeah.
you know, but
Because the
yeah, I mean,
same
we were,
things that got you to this certain level aren't necessarily always going to get you to the level that you want to grow to. So you got to figure out a
right.
lot of crap to get between here and there.
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. That's
Yeah.
probably the thing I've learned the most is like there's so many decisions that I go, dang, I hate that I did that back then because I didn't know about this other thing. But the truth is, you can't hold yourself, hostage on that mindset because like you just don't know what you don't know, and your job is to learn and improve and to continue to get better. And if you sit there and fixate on how you could have done something differently a year ago and you may be in a different position, it's like, well, we can't go back.
Yeah.
So there's no point even thinking about it. You know now, so moving forward, do it the way you need to do it. But yeah.
For sure. So I know one of the big pushes that you guys have been kind of working on over the last year or two is wholesale for Fat and Weird, and kind of that would be a differentiator from a lot of these other companies that have kind of popped up in the wake of what you guys have created. How how have you been preparing for that? How is that going? What does that look like for you?
Well, I think that first I want to paint this picture for people because I think a lot of people think about entrepreneurship and they have friends that have companies and they know of companies and they feel like year after year that company is doing better and better and better and especially when you follow social media, someone's launching their clothing company and they're like, this is our biggest launch, this is our biggest launch. Like every launch is the biggest launch, right?
Yeah.
Every launch is they sold out, they sold more, they did this, right? You can get very like caught into this thing. So Fat and Weird actually, once, a long story short on this one, we rented space in a commercial kitchen, then we rented our own commercial kitchen, and then we built the facility that we're in now. Once we moved into the facility we're in now, which was about February of 2021, is when the economy had kind of stabilized post COVID and it had like started to like not drop drastically, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was not we were not getting as many cookie orders as we were in 2020. May of 2020, like we were doing 12,000 cookies a week, like that, sold out. So it had started to stabilize, if you will. And I'd built this facility. So the operating cost of Fat and Weird had gone up drastically. You have a much bigger facility. You've got your own equipment,
Yeah.
overhead, and stuff like that. And then probably it would have been 2022, like May, like we just saw a sharp drop. And I think a lot of people saw that drop is when the interest rates really started to shoot up. People started feeling inflation. Like it's so noticeable. I had friends that tell me, oh yeah, we dropped 20%. I was like, no, we dropped like 70%.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a huge drop for us. And it was like, oh crap. Like I built this machine that you need to feed a certain amount of food to, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that soon.
Mm-hmm.
And so around October, we were approached by a company that is going the franchise route, but they wanted to open up a second company to do wholesale.
Okay.
And so they came and toured our facility. They agreed. We agreed on an offer. It was essentially, I guess it'd be 8 figures. It's low 8 figures, but it was eight
Okay.
figures. And so it was like life-changing money.
Yeah.
And I was going to stay on to like help with stuff at a pretty hefty salary and everything. And so like going through that whole process, like we were getting ready to sell Fat and Weird. I mean, I had like $50,000 in legal bills and like the due diligence and drafting paperwork and all that stuff. And 3 days out, their capital fell through because they were working with a venture capitalist group, and the venture capitalist group, we were like part of a puzzle, and like at the end of the day, like all the pieces didn't line up, and
Yeah.
so it didn't work out. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Everything had like slowed down, and now I had kind of just like forged this path ahead that I was going to go help this company go into wholesale. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go and wholesale myself. And you have two options, right? To wholesale or to franchise. And at the end of the day, Crumble has a lock on a lot of locations for franchising. There's other cookie companies now, Chip and some of these other ones that are Levain's even opening up locations other places. I see that as like the race for froyo, when you used to be able to go to a place and you'd see like a Minchie's and a Sweet Frogs and a Yogurt Land and
Every strip mall.
yeah, everyone had like 12 different froyo places in
Yep.
their city, and now there's only one that's left standing, the one that weathered the storm.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I want to go wholesale. Like, no one's doing what I'm doing in the wholesale world. Like, it's just chocolate chip cookies. You know, like you can even look at Pillsbury and Toll House will do like occasionally, like Pillsbury will do like Reese's, you know, cookies or like Lucky Charms cookies, but it's like it's not really novel. You're just putting
No.
Lucky Charms like in a cookie. It's not
Yes,
like this
exactly.
creative aspect. So I was like, I'm just going to try this wholesale route myself. So I hired a couple people to form a team. We started knocking away at things. And I mean, it's been a much slower process than I had hoped for. But I think, you know, when you're dealing with some of these accounts that are massive, like Publix, you know, it
Yeah,
just takes a long time to get fully vetted and through their system and, you know, them to be comfortable ordering, especially because we are like this new product. Like we're going into a shelf space by ourselves. There's not some competitor that's bringing eyes that you can bounce off of, you know?
for sure.
So that's been you know, it's been a learning curve. Myers got their order, I think, this week. So sometime over the next couple of weeks, like Myers should be putting out our cookies in all like 240 something stores, I think
Wow.
260 stores that they
Congratulations.
ordered. Yeah, and then Publix is we're waiting on a PO, hopefully by the end of this week, early next week, for a full nationwide rollout, like 1,422 stores or something like that.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and we're sending samples out to Kroger tomorrow or today for them to get. So like there's a lot of grocery chains that we're working with and starting to get our way into. That's been a lot of fun, but it's again, you don't get to actualize any of that like revenue gain because you're spending it by hiring more employees, buying new equipment, like facilitating all the next steps. And so
Hmm.
I think a lot of people just see these people crush it and they make a lot of money early on and they're like, man, but I think most people probably don't actualize any kind of income for 5 to 8 years
Long time.
probably from their business.
Yeah. So with this rollout and with what you guys are doing, are these chains, are they typically just looking at like what's the KPIs that they're looking for when they roll out, you know, the first 10 stores or 50 stores? Are they looking just purely at velocities? Are they looking at obviously margins, right? But are they just looking at velocities on the shelves or how long something's sitting out before
Yeah,
somebody
I think I
grabs it?
think I think they're looking at velocities.
Okay.
Luckily, we have like a long shelf life because we just leave it frozen product, so it has a year shelf life. So
Okay.
velocity isn't like too big of a concern. You know, like you're like, okay, if they order 6 bags of every flavor, it's like they can sell 24 bags in the course of 8 9 months. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think velocity is probably what they're looking at the most. Margins are interesting when it comes to those people. They
CPG.
tell you like what they're going to make.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like back into the number that you're going to sell it to them for, like based on like, I want them to retail it for this. They need this much margin. So I'm going to have to sell it to them for this.
Got it.
And we know we're a more expensive product. There's other mass produced cookies out there like David's cookies and Rich's and stuff like that that are $1 a cookie, you know, for some of these people to order. And you know, we're never going to compete in that realm. We're just a gourmet product and we're going to have to differentiate ourselves there. So we've done really well in like higher end restaurants. We have a lot of food service, so people that order at restaurants that love ordering the cookies. They love them to like for us to bake them ahead of time and have them packaged, and then they
Yeah.
literally just like open them up, warm them up, and serve them to the customer. So that's a convenient thing because not a lot of people offer that. You know, you
Hmm.
don't. In the food service world, you get frozen dough pucks and you got to bake them yourself. So it's opened up our realm to like bake them for people ahead of time. Gives us a lot more flexibility there. A lot of restaurants like to have them in like a display case, like more of like the quicker restaurants, like pizza. We have a couple pizza places. They'll warm up the cookie in the pizza oven,
Hmm.
type thing. A couple bars that like to have our cookies in there because people get hungry when they're sitting there
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the major accounts have been, you know, I think the end of this month, we're getting a rollout with Target and like 120 stores. So yeah,
Wow.
it's just, it's a slow trickle. You know, we've been doing this now for a year and a half or so. And it's
Yeah,
just like,
I
we
remember
just now
whenever
are
when
getting
you and
there.
Mike kind of first started talking about the wholesale route. I even remember when you guys were talking about the like in talks with people about Fat and Weird and moving it. And so um, That's crazy that it might feel like it's going slow, but that's a lot of groundwork and a lot of stores for a year and a half of working that at that. I
Yeah.
feel like anyways.
Yeah, and our biggest account right now, probably consistently, is DoorDash.
Okay.
DoorDash, they launched with us with their grocery delivery. It's called Dash Mart. So like you go in the DoorDash app and you type in Dash Mart, and it's like a grocery store. The
Okay.
pitch for that is that like since it's a centralized hub, they can deliver it to you in like it's as a smaller delivery radius, but they can deliver it to you in like 30 minutes. So if you wanted to make your own food or you wanted like quick service food, you can order it there and have it made. And so our cookies went in there at first, and they did really well. They did so well. DoorDash was like, we want to do a collaborative cookie with you. We're going to order 15,000 of one flavor. Um,
Jeez.
and so we developed a couple different flavors, sent it to them. They picked the one they liked the most, and then we made the DoorDash and Chill cookie. And that went so well that just recently, DoorDash is now opening 140 ghost kitchen locations for us, and they're going to manage them. And so we are going to ship to 140 different locations. And then now on DoorDash, if you type in Fat and Weird, like a Fat and Weird cookie looks like a location's there, but it's just us shipping it to them, and then they're going to ship it out. But
Wow.
the whole thing I want to do is just get my cookies easily accessible to people,
For sure.
because I know that once they try them, they're like, damn, these are good. And so it's just about that convenience of having it close to you, because right now you have to order them online. You have to wait a few days for us to bake it and package it and ship it. And then, a few days for it to be delivered. It's like quickest time turnaround is probably 4 or 5 days before you
Yep.
get your cookies. I
Okay.
want it, to be like 45 minutes and then you have your cookies, right? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we're working through with DoorDash and then the grocery stores and things like that.
That's fantastic. I had no idea about the DoorDash channel. I didn't even know that they did like ghost kit like hubs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
um that's really really cool. Congratulations on that too.
Yeah. So, I
That's
mean,
fantastic.
honestly, like near you, you're probably going to be able to
Yeah, I
type
mean
in
I'm in
fat
Dallas.
and
I'm
weird
sure there's
cookies
something.
soon. Yeah. You'll
Yeah,
be able to type it in soon, and a fat and weird cookie will pop up and you'll be able to order cookies.
sounds good to me. I'm on day right now. I'm on day 60. Me and my wife are doing 75 hard, so we're
Oh,
on day
okay.
65
Yeah.
of 75 hard. So that might have to be a day 76 type of thing.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
throwing in
kudos
fat
to
and
you.
weird.
That's a tough thing to do.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we started the year off last year with it, and we had a couple of friends that joined us, and we had a bunch of friends that joined us, and a couple that made it through, I should say, with us and finished it out. And then this year, even more people joined, and it looks like even more people are going to finish. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to start every year with it, because it's a huge time suck. It's great for the mental toughness thing and like getting momentum going and all that with your health and fitness and mindset, but it's also when you're trying to run a few businesses and you're trying to, you know, do some other things, like it's a huge time suck, and you got to make it a priority for a long time.
Yeah, it's funny. Fitness is how Aubrey and I got our start, but I feel like it's taken the back seat to a lot of stuff. Like,
Yes.
I think I went to the gym today for like 35 minutes. That's all I was
Yep.
there. I did legs, and it was like leg extensions, hamstring curls, leg press, hack squat, and then I just did like a bunch of like exhaustion squat sets.
Hmm.
And like that was it. And I got out of there and left. And I don't have nearly the amount of time that I used to have to
Yeah.
devote to working out.
And you guys are a
So
parent. You guys are parents too, so
yeah,
that is even, I'm sure, harder. But yeah, it feels like as because me and Mike started AR at the beginning of last year, our company AR Funnel, and that grew and scaled to a level that I'd never been involved in a business that had done that. And so it was funny. We were building and scaling this business for fitness entrepreneurs. And that was like the least active outside of 75 hard, was like the least active year of my life.
yeah.
Like I still ate all the same stuff. I still stayed in decent shape, but I just felt too busy for it. And it's all excuses and all, there's all
Well, I
the,
mean, there is a certain amount of time though that you have in a day, and I think that sometimes you have to triage like what really matters.
for sure.
Like, not saying that your health doesn't really matter, but like, okay, I could have not gone to the gym today, but 35 minutes was good enough.
Yes.
And I think that there gets to a point where you're like, it's better to go do a little bit of something than just to be like, up, can't do it today. Um, and so that's just every person's got to weigh out what that means to them, whether that's giving up sleep, whether that's giving up certain alone time or quality time or like whatever you just got to figure out like what works for you, you know?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes is there are no options, there's only trade-offs. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to trade if you want to do this thing, you got to trade something for it, right? So you got
Right.
to kind of audit yourself and figure out where that can be. Um, so we've talked about fat and weird, talked about memories over macros. You guys, I heard mention on Don't Be Sour with that episode that you guys did with Max. You talked a little bit about real estate. Tell me about what you guys do with real estate.
Yeah. So, in gosh, what would that have been? 2022. In January 2022, we bought a duplex with our friends
Okay.
on the beach. Like literally, like there was a road, and then the beach was on the other side of that road. So
So
like,
wait, tell me how, because I'm really interested in doing stuff like this with groups of people. How did you guys set up that deal, if you don't mind? Like how, like did you guys make like short term LLCs and then like put it
yeah,
like
we
how did
we made one LLC together that we were going to hold this property under,
got it?
and we bought the property. We worked out some different stuff. Like he was going to manage the property, and
Okay,
um I put all them like I put down the down payment on it.
got it.
We actually bought it outright. That one we bought outright, and I was like, well, instead of us having to pay interest on a loan,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're just not going to charge me your fee to like service the place, you know,
Got
like
it.
to the cleaning fee, the upkeep, the like he was running everything. So it was like, I'm the bank, you're going to run it. We're just going to split everything down the middle.
So you put
And
in the
so
equity,
we,
he put in the sweat equity, kind of.
yeah, right, right. Yeah. So yeah, my interest that I was getting paid was not having to pay
Yes.
that, 20% management fee or whatever. And so when you look back at it, we bought them, and then they were just guts. They were terrible. So like we literally ripped out the kitchens, put in all new kitchens, and just did everything on a budget. We built bunk beds ourselves for the rooms. I think we
Okay.
spent like $300 in wood, and we built like 2 double bunks to go into like
Okay.
one of the rooms. The kitchen, we bought the cabinets and like put them together ourselves, and then Aubrey's dad like helped hang the cabinets on the wall because he's done that stuff before. So like we did a lot of stuff ourselves. Um, uh, Repainted the whole inside. Well, while we were doing that, another so there's 4 duplexes in a row. We bought the one on the end. My friend already owned the one next to it. Well, the one beside that one became available, and my friend's like,
Okay.
"Hey, do you want to jump on this one too?" And at that point, we had to get a loan because I was like, "I can't be out this much money." So we got a
Yeah.
loan. We started gutting it and doing the same thing, renovating that one, and you know, by like April, we were like, dude, this economy is getting wild. Like people are like literally paying way more money than we paid for these back in January, like
Mm-hmm.
insanely more. And so I was like, hey, let's just list them for sale. I know I said we can go buy something else, like we can be a bigger property, like we can do something with that money, but like let's just sell it and move on and like actualize this money right now because people are
Yeah.
wild how much they're spending on stuff. So we ended up selling them both for over $200,000 more than what we paid for them each.
Wow.
So like, the profit was like after realtor fees and everything was probably close to $400,000 on them. And we bought 4.5 acres outside of um, the nicest subdivision in our area. It's called a place called Sweet Bay. And it's literally like one street off of like the main Sweet Bay Road. So you're very close to Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay has a lot of parks, and they're building the town center with their own Publix and stuff in there. And it's all golf cart friendly. So like if you lived in these townhomes, or what we were going to build was townhomes on there. But if you lived there, if you had a golf cart, you could just drive into Sweet Bay and.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided we're going to build townhomes there. So we've been literally, I think we sold everything by August of 2022. So like a year and a half ago now. And we've been working on developing this property. And then we actually already have a buyer, a builder that wants to buy it from us once we get the development order. We can build 50 townhomes on there. They offered us like an amount per townhome. So we bought this land for like 600,000 and we're going to sell it for like 1.2.
Wow.
After a year and a half and putting about $100,000 into it.
Yeah.
That's your time and sweat equity into like, going to all these rezoning meetings, having to meet with engineers, planning, putting out that $100,000, like waiting, for money to come back in. So that's we're hoping to get the development order in the next couple weeks. Like it's almost there. We've submitted everything to the city, and at that point, we'll close 60 days later, and I'll get that money out. And then I'm probably just gonna like pull out of real estate for now. I think that
So you guys aren't going to, sorry to cut you off. You guys aren't going to develop it yourselves. You just did all the work to basically buy the land, get it approved for development, and then someone else is going to buy the plans and take that from you.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's D.R. Horton. I mean, you're probably familiar with D.R.
Yeah.
Horton, the home
Yeah.
builder.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
D.R. Horton is buying it to build townhouse on. So when they approached us, they wanted us to get the development order, and I said, well, what, like, you need to tell me what plans you want to build on here, because like, so they gave us like footprints and elevations, and like we submit all that stuff to the city to designed it out. It's like 50 townhomes that we can fit in there though. So on that four
That's
and a half acres.
awesome.
So yeah, that's a good chunk of change like returned on that, but I probably just like I want to focus on Fat and Weird. I've always had the real estate stuff going on and Fat and Weird and Aubrey's online coaching, and I need to focus this year really on Fat and Weird if we want to get it to where we're trying to go. So
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, okay, so kind of, I'm gonna kind of make you backtrack a little bit. One thing that I think is really interesting about you and Aubrey's story and kind of a portion of your life was you guys traveled and lived out of a van, if I'm not mistaken, for a while.
I like
Um,
a camper. We just pulled a little camper, like a bull
Camper.
wagon
Okay.
camper.
Okay. Tell me about like why did you guys go do that? Like what was that like? Because that's something that my wife and I want to do at some point is like just go travel and try to figure out where we want to put down like, initial roots. Because I'm not sure if it'll be Dallas forever, right? We don't
Right.
have kids yet and all that, similar to how you guys were. So how was that experience for you guys?
Um, so I think it was probably, I'd say predominantly my idea. I don't think
Okay.
Aubrey's not nearly as like outgoing of a person as I am. So I think it was predominantly my idea. I wanted a way to connect with the people that followed us on social media.
Okay.
Unless you go to like the Arnold Expo, which we did, and like then people have to fly to that expo. Unless you go to those places, you're not going to meet all these people that follow you. And believe it or not, like my favorite thing about social media is the community that Aubrey and I
Hmm.
have built on there. That's why I tell people all the time, like I like appreciate and cherish the people that follow us and engage with us and like are a part of this community. So I was like, I want to travel around and like I want to go to these people's backyards. I want to do meetups. I want people to tell us like where to go eat. Like I want to try out all this stuff. So we started the road trip in Panama City, Florida, and like we went up to like Birmingham and cut through to I guess Tennessee, and like we just went all the way around, and then ended up going to like Baltimore, and then went up the East Coast, and then cut through um, Vermont through the Ben and Jerry's factory. We did a
Hmm.
visit there, and we like cut through all these state parks, and then we went up to um, went through Niagara Falls, and we went to the Canada side and went up to Toronto, came out the other side on Detroit, did Chicago, like I mean, this huge circle we kind of did.
Yeah.
And the whole way we had meetups with every single place we went, we did a meetup. And there were sometimes that like one, two people would show up to the meetup, like in
Hmm.
Buffalo, it literally was like two people showed up.
Yeah.
Um, and then Kansas City, we had 45 people show up. So
That's got to be
it was
cool. That's got to
wild.
be really, really cool feeling.
Yeah. St. Louis, there was probably like 20 something. And the cool thing is, like, after we get done with the meetups, a lot of times someone would be like, hey, I'd love to take you to this restaurant. So, like, when we did the Kansas City one, this girl was like, hey, I want to take you to this barbecue restaurant I used to work at. So she took us to get barbecue. We like sat there and ate barbecue with her. And then um, we went to this ice cream place, which is still one of the best ice cream places I've ever been to in my life. It's called Clementine's.
Okay.
And so Clementine's in Kansas City, if you're ever there,
All
check it
right. All
out.
right.
Um, but no, I mean, it was a really fun time to like meet the people that support us. And
Hmm.
that's the way I viewed that entire trip, was a way. And, at the same time, like we signed with PE Science and left, like Rob and Dana, we left Run Everything, which, now, like Run Everything was like kind of floundering on their
Yeah.
identity. And so
Yep.
we kind of saw that, and we were like, you know what, we like PE Science. We've been using them before. So we signed with PE Science, and they sent us a ton of samples to like give out to people on our road trip. I guess we kind of treat it like a mini expo, every single
Yeah.
city,
That's what it sounds like.
little pop up
So
shop.
being so in close proximity to each other the whole time, which is kind of, I mean, you guys are kind of doing not necessarily the same thing now, but with such close proximity, but working so close to each other inside of the businesses. How was that on the road trip, and what did you guys learn there that you took into trying to work as a couple in your businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the road trip taught us a lot about, like, Aubrey needs a lot more alone time and personal
Okay.
space than I do. And on that whole road trip, we were probably, I mean, we were gone like early September through November. So we were gone for like 8 to 9 weeks or so.
Hmm.
And we were probably away from each other a combined like 7 hours
Really?
that entire time. Yeah, I mean, we went to all our meals we ate together. Went to meetups together. We slept together. And the only time really was like occasionally she would go work out while I was doing something else, and then I would go work out while she was doing something else.
Hmm.
Um, but in general, we were with each other for like there's no way we were separated for more than like 10 hours. I think like one time she went and got her nails done, so she was gone from me for like an hour and a half. But in general, like we were always together.
Yeah.
I don't know. You learn a lot about your relationship. You learn a lot about what you need. I think that people nowadays think marriage should be this like easy thing. They think that like, oh, if it's meant to be, it's going to be easy, and it's not. I think that when you marry someone, you make a vow that you're going to try everything in your power to like stay together, love them, treat them right. Because at the end of the day, like, is something better going to come along? Yeah, especially if you're looking for it. And it's not about like trying to find the next best thing. It's about continuing the great thing you already have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because Aubrey and I both, like, she'll tell you this too. I think you can get married to probably hundreds of, probably thousands of different people,
Hmm.
and your relationship will be easier with some and harder with others. But at the end of the day, two people decide they want to get married and they devote themselves to that marriage, then they should stay together. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean,
I,
we
I
get
saw
in
a quote
fights.
one time. I saw a quote one time that was your partner that you end up choosing takes up the equivalent of, through psychology. I don't even know how they measure this, but two close friend spots essentially.
Yeah,
Right. And so you have to kind of, I think that's kind of a cool reframe of like, think of your two closest friends. Is this person that you're considering going into this partnership with worth two friends, right? Or those two people to you? Because they're going to take that up and even more in most
right.
cases. So is that kind of how you view, like, you have to work on these relationships because of that fact, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that like Aubrey and I go to marriage counseling regardless of whether we are actually in an issue or not.
That's awesome.
I love reading like books. I highly recommend any book by Dr. Gottman.
Okay.
He wrote like the 7 principles for making marriage work, and he has this huge research lab where he did studies, and he could tell with 94% accuracy if a couple was going to get divorced in the next 5 years just by a 15-minute conversation that they had.
Wow.
And like that's pretty mind blowing. 94% accuracy is like ridiculous, right?
Hmm.
Um, and who knows how many of the other ones like didn't get divorced until within the 5 years, but so they would have been in that statistic. And how many of them are still together, but they're just all miserable,
Miserable. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Dr. John Gottman, he talks about how there's like, he calls it the 4 horsemen of a marriage that are negatives. And it's like defensiveness, flooding, criticism, and stonewalling, is what I think that's the 4. But anyways, really good. I highly recommend his stuff. I love to listen to any books that are like psychology and about your mind and how everything works to just like better understand my feelings and
Yeah.
why I feel the way I feel about certain things. I think being a parent too has brought out some of that too. It's like, you're like raising someone now and you're like, I don't want to screw this up. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to mess this up. So yeah.
Well, and they're little sponges too, so they're seeing everything about your relationship, and they're modeling it, whether you realize it or not, in their mind for like their potential future relationships and what they're going to look for in partners. Which has got to feel like an immense amount of pressure, I'm sure, for you guys. But
Yeah.
with you guys being so unique in terms of you've always worked on the businesses together, how do you balance that dynamic? Like, how do you shut it off when you get, because my wife and I have tried with some of the different things with like different projects and everything, and our problem, I think, from what she has kind of mentioned, or what I can kind of gather from her, is like all the businesses thus far have just been like my businesses that I've created and I've nurtured or I've built up to a certain point, and then like she feels like she's kind of coming in under me. You know what I mean? And that's, nobody wants to feel like that, especially in an equal partnership. And so, um, with you guys starting them from the start together, how do you balance the relationship and business relationship?
Well, I think that Aubrey probably feels very similar to your wife in that aspect. Is sometimes she feels like she does admin work or grunt work, and I don't appreciate that.
Hmm.
But it's just a discussion that we've had that like you're just as crucial to the business, even if you're not doing some decisions that you feel like are the flashier decisions.
For
Like if you
sure.
didn't do what you were doing, like Aubrey does all the interviewing and hiring for Fat and Weird. Like that's a huge role. Like she controls like the dynamic of the entire team down in the kitchen. And so it'd be easy to be like, oh, she just hires people, right? But it's like, no, that's a big deal
Yeah.
to it. So I think a lot of times it's just like reframing people's expectations of like, you may have thought you were going to be doing X, Y, and Z, but you're doing other things that are just as important, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and I think there's just a lot of discussion on it. Like sometimes I tell Aubrey, like, I know we don't want to talk about work, but I need to get this off my chest, or I need to talk about this. And then there's sometimes that it's just like, you know what, this can wait until tomorrow. I think a lot of times we put like so much stress and pressure on ourselves to like resolve everything like right then that we just don't like just let it go. Um,
Hmm.
I read a book recently. It's called The Courage to Be Disliked. There's a couple of quotes in there I really like, but one of the quotes is the greatest freedom is the freedom not to get involved.
Okay.
So there's a lot of times that we get involved in things that we don't need to be involved in that add stress and pressure to our lives, you know, um, or being involved in things to try to get external validation. Like the only reason I'm doing this is because I want someone to like recognize me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that that's part of it is like a lot of times I have to listen to. It's hard for men, especially because whenever you tell a man a problem, they want to fix the problem.
Fix. Yeah.
But a lot of times Aubrey just wants me to like listen and be like, yeah, that's tough. And just like, as much as I want to like give my 2 cents on like
I,
how I
yeah.
would do it differently, the truth is she's feeling a certain way about it. And yeah, that sucks that it feels that way for you. And
I've
that's
I've
easier said
I've
than
just
done.
started
I mean,
asking immediately. I'll ask up front. Like if we're engaged in a conversation where she's like telling me problems or telling me something, I just ask like, is this like a Baker, I need you to fix it type of conversation, or is it a Baker, I need to just tell you this thing? And she'll just tell me. She's like, I just want to tell you. I'm like, okay, all right. So
yeah.
then I just sit back, sit on my hands.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it really is true.
Yeah.
And then there's another quote that from that book I really like, and it says, "You're not living to satisfy other people's expectations." And so, again, it's kind of like that whole freedom not to get involved thing. It's just like, I think a lot of people, what stuck with me when we were at Robin Daniel Limbe's camp in 2016.
Hmm.
Um, Someone said something along the lines of like success, like how did you get so successful or whatever. And Rob kind of like answered back that like what is success? Right? And I think that we all probably have different definitions of success. I think we all probably have different goals and metrics in life. The real thing I would say is if you took maybe every other human out of your life other than like maybe your wife and then kids. If you took everyone else out, would the way that you're trying to live your life change? Are you
That's
buying
super
the
powerful.
vehicle to make a statement, or are you buying the vehicle because you actually really love that vehicle?
Yeah,
Are you trying to have a house in a certain location, a certain size with certain things because you actually want those things, or because you want to look successful, or you want other people to be like, wow, look at what he's got?
for sure.
Um, so I think that's like for me, success is wildly different than it used to be when I was younger. Um, I think for me, making it would be have enough money that Aubrey and I can just do what we want to do throughout the day, and have enough residual income to like live the life that we're living right now. I tell people that all the time. I was like, I don't need a 100-foot yacht off the coast of Italy. I don't need a private jet. Um, I would be content having the life I have like now without the stress of the day to day operations of
Yeah,
the business.
operations.
So I think that it's all perspective on what you find important to your life, and at the end of the day, everyone's gonna have different definitions. But I think you need to remove the external validations and the expectations that other people place on your lives in order to live a more fulfilled life.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that reframe because that is something that everyone, especially with social media, everyone gets caught in that game of comparison. And I want to be able to, if I'm not successful and I don't show that, if I don't show the money or the things or the materials, like how are people going to know? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and that's something that a lot of us fall into, and especially as men, I feel like we just have a built-in, usually larger ego, that lends to fueling that nonstop. So I think
Yeah,
that,
I mean, I think it's like it can go back to just the times of like I would be a more desirable mate if I had more money or more
yes.
power. So we just continue to try to accumulate those things as a status
Mhm.
symbol, within a group. The book, The Courage to Be Disliked, it actually talks about how you should avoid vertical relationships, which is creating those status things, and your relationship should be horizontal relationships, right?
Mhm.
You should. It's very interesting. It's called Alderian psychology, by like what this is about. Like you've heard of Freudian psychology, like the reason that you can't be in a serious relationship with women is because your mom cheated on your dad, and like
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
childhood trauma, right? That's kind of Freudian psychology. Alderian psychology is a lot more about everything is the interpersonal relationships that you have, and I really enjoy it because I feel like in Freudian psychology, it's kind of like we were talking about before, like you can't change it because you were given this hand. Whereas
Mhm.
Alderian psychology is like you're giving this hand, but you have complete control over how you play it. And so I like Alderian psychology more. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think that there's a right or wrong answer. I think that people will argue back and forth on that. But the idea that I control my life is always the one that I'm going to want to do because otherwise if I have no control or only partial control, like I don't, it's not doesn't sound great.
Yeah, that's one thing that you can observe in all entrepreneurs is, you hear that internal versus external locus of control. Like, do I
Yeah,
believe that the things around me are acting upon me, or do I believe that I'm acting in a way that can influence the things around me?
yeah.
And that kind of brings me into my next question, or I guess line of them. I told you I had a bunch,
No, I'm
which
fine.
is, so with you guys, what do you feel like? And I have a feeling based on your what you just said. I know the answer to this, but do you feel like you were right place, right time to take advantage of these opportunities, or do you feel like you always navigated in a way where you were looking for them and looking for ways to continue to elevate and create this stuff, or like what brought you guys to where you are? Like, what made you different? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's timing, there's luck, there's skill, there's a lot involved in it. It's like people that get upset that someone like oh my god, he hit a home run. Well, the only reason he could hit a home run is because he was in the game.
Yeah.
If he was sitting on the in the bleachers, he'd never hit a home run.
Hmm.
So you can call it luck, you can call it skill, you can call it whatever, but the fact of the matter is it's only relevant because he was playing the game.
And because he
And
practiced that same swing 30,000 times up before that moment, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean, like you probably got some friends that have like never done
Or
something in their life,
yes.
and all of a sudden they just like pick it up really easily, and you're like beginner's luck, right?
Yeah.
But they would have never known if they didn't try. And I think so many people are so scared of failing that they don't even try because they are so worried again about what other people think about them that they are like, I can't do this because if I fail, I'm a failure. And they label themselves that, or they say other people are going to think this about me or whatever. It's like, I mean, there's people that hate me on Reddit. There's people that literally talk so much crap about me
Yeah.
on Reddit. And the truth is, like, they don't know me. They they may have had an interaction with me, but they don't know me. They don't know me like Aubrey knows me or Eastman, our videographer, knows me. They don't know me like that, and so I can't take to heart their opinions on me. Not everyone's going to be liked. Jesus literally was perfect and he was
Yeah.
not liked by everyone. You look at the bigger you become, the more you will have people that love and hate you. So if you're completely liked by everyone, then you're probably like the Antichrist. So,
Hmm. Yeah, for
But
sure.
but no, I mean, I think that it's just a lot about that, just like not letting external factors like play into what you're doing. And then, as far as like the luck versus skill, I think it's just like it's a little bit of everything. I think that we were lucky to start our cookie company when we did, but if we didn't, then we wouldn't be in this position. So like it
Hmm.
still requires steps. I filmed a YouTube video for Nick Bear in 2017. We had spent an entire year on YouTube and only gotten 500 subscribers. I
Hmm.
filmed a YouTube video with him, and the next day we had grown 1,500 subscribers. So we effectively tripled or quadrupled our subscriber count in a matter of like 48 hours from this one video. But the only reason that happened is because we had put videos out consistently. If we didn't do that, and I did that video with Nick Bear, maybe 20 people would subscribe to the empty YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but probably not. But that right there was a start on that as well. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be some people that get luckier than you, that hit it
Hmm.
better than you do. There's some people that they're going to try and train harder than you do. But the only way to even be in the game at all is by playing the game.
I love that. I love that. I didn't know about the Nick Bear video. I think that's really. I'm trying to get into YouTube. We've been vlogging and everything, and
It's
putting
hard.
out
I mean,
stuff, and so
we've been doing it forever, and we only have like 70,000 subscribers, and
yeah,
and we've been doing it forever, and it's a difficult thing to figure out, especially navigating every other thing that we have on our plate. But we
yeah.
enjoy it from the community aspect. That's why we invest into it. So
Yeah, that's why that's kind of my push to get into like the podcast and YouTube and everything is just it feels like in today's day and age the people that are doing better than you or that are doing bigger things on a bigger scale have more hours of themselves on the internet.
yeah,
Just period, right? Like these streamers are getting insane amounts of influence, insane amounts of deals and all of these things coming their way, and they're streaming their entire day. They're
yes,
12
because
hours.
attention, yeah,
Yeah,
data and attention are the oil and whatever else you want to say uh, of today's society. Oil and
100%.
gold, I guess. Data and attention is
Yeah,
what it is. You know,
100%.
I mean, people pay for data. Facebook gets in trouble over data. And then attention is just how many eyes can you keep on you because
Hmm.
you're just a walking advertisement at that point. So
Yeah. Okay, so entrepreneurship as now parents, right? We talked about the couple side of things. How has since having Letty, how has first of all, she's absolutely adorable. I love you guys' videos that you post with Letty and all the taste tests and all the different toys that she plays with. She's adorable. Um, talk about whenever you guys first had her, how did that kind of change? Did that change anything mentally, right? And then did that make
um
you go slower or harder or
yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely like an instantaneous mental switch that happens. Like I immediately just like felt this love for something,
you just
like
met?
immediately, yeah, just met, like, you would die for this child that just came out of the womb and has done like nothing for you. Um, and so I think that there's a switch on that. I will say like when Letty was super young, we were like heavily involved with like the building of Fat and Weird and all that stuff, like the building that we're in now,
Yep.
moving stuff around, the growth and stuff. So I feel like I wasn't as present like in the very first 6-ish months of our lives. And just talking to other dads, I think it's pretty common because it's like the baby literally wants to eat, sleep, and use the bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can't feed the baby, like because Aubrey was breastfeeding, so it's like, and she was not really producing enough to like pump extra for me to feed her, so like she was
Mhm.
just having to breastfeed at the time, and so when you look at that kind of situation, it's like, well, that's a lot of time that I can't spend with the baby other than like watching her so Aubrey can do other things and things like that, which it did, but it just I felt very disconnected, and then as she got older, and she was like walking and then she got into formula,
Mhm.
like I could give her bottles, like that you kind of like grow together on that
Yeah.
thing. So I think that it's normal for dads to feel disconnected early
I
on
had
as
I
far
had
as like,
another dad on that was a brand new dad, 10 episodes ago or whatever, and he said the same thing. He was like, "Right now, I kind of like," and he was super honest about it. He was like, "I kind of don't feel as like I don't know what I don't feel as connected as I would like to be, but it's also," and he said the same thing. He was like, "I don't get the time one-on-one that I would like to have. So I just try to take advantage of those moments that I get kind of like fleeting.
Yeah, and it gets easier because as you get older, like, you can play with them, you, like, can do things, like, when
Yes.
they're
And they're
babies, like,
developing
they're
personalities and
yeah, they're like, when they're babies, they're, like, laying on they're doing tummy time or on their back, and they're, like, playing with the stuff that's, like, hanging above them, and it's like,
yeah.
"What do you want me I'm just watching this child lay here," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think that, it just gets easier as they get older. Um, but yeah, I mean, parenting changed me into the aspect of like what I want out of life.
Mhm.
Um, I probably would work longer hours, not necessarily that you would get more done, but work longer hours if Letty wasn't around, and I'd probably devote myself more to certain things. But you kind of just realize that like I only have so much time with her,
Mhm.
and my aspirations involve setting up financial freedom for our family. So I need to make sure I'm balancing spending that time with her while trying to achieve those goals.
Yeah, still working on that mission. I saw
Yeah,
your post the other day about by the age of like 12, you spent 70% of your time with your
yeah,
kids, and then by the age of 18, you
18 is
spent like
90%.
95 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
That's a crazy statistic.
Well, I mean, think
But
about it now. Like, how much time have you spent with your mother since you moved out, or your
yeah,
father? You
not
know?
mu I mean, I haven't been back home. I was just telling Kinsey the other day, we haven't been back to visit them in 3 months, you
Yeah.
know?
And then when you do visit, like if you visit for 4 or 5 days, like 4 or 5 days is nothing compared to the fact that you used to be in the house all day, every day, pretty much,
Mhm.
other than going to school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You spent every evening with them, you spent every, morning with them, like weekend with them, and then all of a sudden it changes, you know. And I think your kids, you're your child's favorite person probably until they're about like 10.
Yeah.
Then they become a teenager. I mean, it really happens. And the biggest influence on your children is going to become the people you hang out with.
Mhm.
So it's really important that you would be okay with the people you hang out with essentially parenting your children,
Mhm.
because they're gonna go. I think there's some. There's obviously anomalies. There's certain kids that like have great relationships with their parents all the way up through, tell them everything. But then a lot of times it's you'll hear stories of being like someone calling this other parent being like, "Hey, just so you know, your daughter came over here and was asking me about this, or your son was
Mhm.
asking me about this." Um, because they don't want to go to you for advice. They want to go
Yep.
to these outside sources. So, yeah, I think that a lot of it's just like I want to spend as much time with Letty while she still thinks I'm the coolest person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have always been super super excited for that phase of life, and you guys' videos do not help with the baby fever stuff, because it's just it looks like you guys are having just like a blast. And I know it's social media and all that stuff, but it looks like you're very intentional with your time with her, which is very cool to see with you doing so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still feel bad. There's like occasionally times that like I'll be like working and she'll come in here and she'll be like, "Daddy, I want to sit on your lap," and I'm like, "I can't right now. Like, I need to
Hmm.
finish this." Uh, but in general, I think that Aubrey and I do a pretty good job about that too. It's hard, but when my parents were my age, they didn't have cell phones and social media to like distract them. And so I think that it's very difficult, and you really have to be cognizant of your effort to balance out that side of your life,
Yes.
and the phone in your hand. I mean,
Hmm.
Letty literally knows how to take photos on phones. She'll like grab
Yeah.
our phone, she'll press the little camera on the bottom, like no passcode, we'll press that, and then we'll start taking pictures.
Hmm.
um she's super smart, but she, like, you realize how early on your kids realize what a phone is, and you go, dang, am I on this thing way too much, if they
Yeah.
like recall, like they know you know
Hmm.
so
Yeah, little sponges. With you guys being, in this phase of life now, right, and doing all the things that you're doing, and taking care of Letty, what advice? This is a question my wife actually wanted me to ask you guys. What advice would you have for newlyweds, right, in the similar situation that you guys were maybe in 4 years ago?
um well, so like newlyweds, just like what,
Could be
managing a
marriage in
work
general. It could
relationship
be
and
like
marriage in general?
newlyweds plus entrepreneurship.
Yeah. um I think that, so I mean, obviously some of the books, like the Seven Principles for Making Marriage Work.
Yep.
There's another
Yep.
really great book called His Needs, Her Needs, and like
Okay.
His Needs is written for women to read, and Her Needs is written for men to read. Aubrey and I actually read, like, flipped them read them and highlighted in it, and then let the other person read it so that they would say, like, they would see what we felt was important from those
That's really
things, which
cool.
was really cool aspect of it. It's just, people like to like act like this is maybe misogynistic or sexist or anything. Is that women or men are just wired differently on the way that they communicate and what they want out of relationships and the way they feel about certain things. When a man tries to make an advance on his wife and she like kind of shoots it down, like it's a hard rejection for him. um Women need to be told that, like, I love you and I would marry you again if I was given the choice, because every minute they feel like the relationship's in limbo if
Yeah.
something bad happens. And those books just kind of frame those things that way. And they're also Christian books as well, so if you're not a Christian, you may not agree with some of the stuff in there, but at the end of the day, whether you read a book that you feel like is completely atrocious or not, there's something to take away from it that you can
Well,
learn
it's
from
also
those.
it's better for the other person and for us to be able to sometimes hear from a third party. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because if I'm saying something about the whole advanced thing, and I'm kind of like, it comes with a whole lot more bias in terms of like me saying it, and also in terms of how they're receiving it.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about this book too is they polled like 1,000 men and
Okay.
1,000 women. So, and they gave the results at the bottom. So like we highlighted the one result we would have been in, but it like
Mhm.
just shows your wife that, like, okay, maybe you are in the minority about how you feel, but there are other people that feel this way too. Or
Yeah.
maybe, man, you're just the typical guy on how you feel about
Yeah.
certain things. But no, it's a really that was a really good book. Really enjoyed that. So I think for marriage, I would just say it's like continual improvement of that. Like,
Mhm.
just like you'd want to continue to improve at the gym or at, your business, all that stuff, like you should want to continue to improve at your marriage. I think that you should never look back and be like, man, 5 years ago, we really had a great marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you should be like, 5 years ago was a great marriage, but now we're in a better spot. I mean, I
Mhm.
think it should just be this like kind of steps towards continual improvement. Um, And then as far as like parenting type advice, I have tons of that, but
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
um,
we'll take anything. We're probably, to give you an idea, we're probably like a year to 18. All we haven't gotten any like tests to see like what it'll take to like actually get there. And I know you guys kind of went through some of your
yeah,
own
I
stuff.
mean, we just met with the fertility doctor. The average couple takes them 6 to 9 months to conceive once they start
Gotcha.
trying. There are
Yeah.
some people that obviously get pregnant like the first time they try, and then there's some
Yeah.
people that take longer than that. But like in general, there's a graph that kind of grows up, and it also depends on age and all these other fertility issues that could arise. But in general, it's like at 1 month, it's like a 15% chance. It kind of just like curves up, and by the time you get to like 6 months, it's at like an 80% chance that you've conceived by then.
Got it.
So that was just an interesting thing. Aubrey and I are trying right now. Everything came back great. The doctor's just like, you just need to keep trying.
Yeah.
So my analysis came back good for me. My hormone levels are good. Like Aubrey's stuff is really good. So he's just like, you guys just need to keep trying, and we'll circle back in 3 months if you haven't gotten
Yeah.
pregnant
It's
by then.
bad news for you, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
um,
awesome though that you guys are trying again.
Yeah, and then as far as like actual parenting, I think that advice that my friend Adam gave me, which is rings the most true, is that like you just have to be consistent. Your kids like need to know what to expect. If you say no, then they beg you and you change your mind, then you've now shown them that if they beg that you'll change their mind. Like,
Yeah.
you have
It's
to
a
let
new
your
learned
no
behavior.
mean no. Yeah, and it's hard. It's really hard to like Letty be like, "Hey Letty, if you do this again, I'm taking that away from you." And she'll do it again, and I have to take it away. Like, I have to do it. She cries, "No, I'm sorry, I won't do it again." It's like, "No, I'm gonna have to take it away." Now I can be like, I'm gonna take it away, but I'll give it back to you in a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you have to stick by what you said you're going to do to have that consistency with kids. And I think that raising them is a lot easier, because if you threaten to spank your kids, and then you don't do it ever, then they're gonna know it's always just a threat, and that
Hmm.
they can kind of just like blow it off. Um, or they just don't know, like, okay, sometimes dad will say he's spanking me and he will spank me, and sometimes he won't,
Yeah.
or take away the iPad or like whatever, discipline form you want to do. Letty, we don't really have to spank her. Like, I think I've spanked her one time.
Hmm.
Um, and like that's it. And it's never out of anger. Like that's one thing too I'll say is like if you're going to spank your child, it's more like, hey, the behavior that you're doing right now, the punishment for that, continuing that is a spanking.
Mm-hmm.
That's your warning. And then they continue to do that, then there's a lot of people that disagree with spanking. Aubrey's not a huge fan of it, but I just,
Yeah,
you know,
my parents, I probably got the most growing up,
yeah,
being the first child, and just being probably the honoriest. And then I think my middle sister, she saw that and didn't really want to test any boundaries. And then my youngest sister got like, I mean, she got kind of only child treatment because she's 7 years behind me.
yeah. My younger
Um,
sister's 7 years younger than
yeah,
me,
so
and
she
so she
didn't
got.
get like any
What's the
discipline
difference between
whatsoever.
you and your middle sibling?
That's only a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the difference between me and my sister is 19 months, so like a
Hmm.
year and a half.
Yep.
And then the difference between me and my little sister is 7 years.
Yeah. So exact
Yeah.
same
And so I
setup.
always say my youngest sister had a cush life,
She had
man. You know, my
yeah,
parents.
mine had a completely different life. I mean, my
Yeah.
parents weren't obviously like that's kind of the paradox of raising kids and everything is like whenever you actually need a lot of the money and like success and stuff, you
Yeah.
usually don't have that at the beginning, and then you kind of go into that as they're leaving when you don't necessarily need it as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, my parents like my little sister Mabry lived a completely different childhood, I always say, than me or my middle sister Addison did.
Yeah, my parents are entrepreneurs as well, and they
Mhm.
started their business whenever I was born. Literally,
Mhm.
like 2 months after I was born, they started the business. So, like, growing up, it was through the struggling, phases of business, like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. So, my sister, who's like 7 years younger than me, like, she was like I was now in college. Now they're not really having to pay for me. I had like a scholarship and everything. So like
Yeah.
that money's kind of going in. They're going on like cruises and doing all this
Yep.
fun stuff. And like my sister's been on like 2 Alaskan cruises. I was like, we didn't get no Alaskan cruise. Like, what is
Yeah.
this? So yeah, she definitely has a different life than we had growing up.
Mhm. I always give them a hard time about it. My big thing that I always give them a hard time about is like I was I was extremely into basketball. Like loved basketball. I would always like make them, and keyword for my situation, I made them like come up in the summer days and stuff and like come do drills with me and like rebound for me and like pass me the ball and all that stuff. Because my mom works in the school system, and so I would have keys to like the school gym all summer, and so
Right.
I would just be in there all day every day during the summers. And they would like complain or be like, "Hey, you need to take days off, right? Like you don't need to like be in here all the time." And then by the time my middle sister didn't really care about basketball, she was just like a freak athlete. And she, I don't know if you've seen her on social media, but she's the girl with like the super crazy quads.
Oh yeah. Is it
Addison,
Addison?
yeah,
Yeah.
Addison Brindley, yeah.
That's your sister?
Yes, that's my sister. She doesn't
Oh
put her
yeah.
last name out there for some reason, but
Yeah, she
yeah,
does. She has insane quads. Like
she
I
does.
don't.
She
It's
absolutely does.
they're wild. If no one's
But so
seen them before, they really are crazy.
they're insane, yeah. And that's coming from her big brother, which is, that's its own pride thing in general. But we, so Mabry was really into basketball too. So she saw like me go through basketball and how hard I worked and like the stuff that I would get and the results that I would get from working so hard. And then she saw Addison. Addison was just naturally gifted and was successful because she was jump higher, run faster, all that stuff.
Right.
And then Mabry kind of was like had the natural gift, but also saw this X factor that I kind of had to get what I needed to do to be successful. And so she kind of ran with both. And my parents from an extremely young age, they put her in every basketball league that they could possibly put her in. They played for all the travel teams for her. She was in AAU all 4 years of high school. Took her to go to events with coaches and go meet coaches, and they were the ones pushing her to like even days she didn't want to train, they're taking her to the gym and like we want to rebound you, we want to be here for you, and like it was so she got a very different experience. Of course, they were only had one kid at that point, so it was a lot easier than
Yeah.
getting all these kids different places and different age groups. But I always give them a hard time of like what I could have been if they would have cared like they did with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that very similar. It sounds very similar. Like I think that my family, from an intellectual level, they tell me that like I was naturally gifted.
Yeah.
My sister, that's 2 years younger than me, she was a hard worker. Like
Hmm.
works harder than anyone I know. And then my youngest sister, also naturally gifted, which by the way, I'm not saying that my sister that's like 2 years younger isn't smart. Like
No,
she's a
yeah.
dermatology PA, she's super smart, but things don't come as easy for her when it came to like that kind of stuff. And then my youngest sister is an engineer as well as me, but she's like super smart and she works really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang man, she's got like the best of both worlds, you
Yeah, they
know?
get to take a back seat and kind of like pick and choose traits, I feel like, which
Yeah,
is really cool.
yeah,
Um, yeah, dude, that's crazy. I didn't know you had a similar like family setup, but it
yeah,
is a very interesting thing getting to watch like, and also being like the oldest and being the guy, you also kind of take ownership and I feel like it's a cool spot to be in. And you know, Letty will get to do the same thing with her little brothers and sisters, but it's a really cool spot to get to watch like, you know, Addison go on to do all the things that she's done. And not that I, you know, we own a coaching company together that does well, but getting to see her do those things. And then Mabry, the basketball one, she's playing college basketball right now, which is awesome.
yeah. It's great.
And so anyways, it's kind of like a pride thing for a big brother. I feel like, I'm sure you
Yeah.
understand that, but
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, like I said, both my sisters have master's degree. One of them is
yeah.
a Durham PA, makes really great money. The younger sister is a has her master's degree in engineering, and she's a professional engineer. And she just accepted a job like 6 months ago. She's like Panama City's head engineer. Like she's the
Wow.
head engineer for Panama City.
Wow.
So it's very very cool, to see them do so well. And
Yeah.
they're both married. They both have 2 kids. Like just it's I just I wasn't as close to them growing up,
Hmm.
truthfully. 7 years younger than you, like you're like 18, they're 11.
Yeah.
But like now, me, I'm turning 37 this year.
Hmm.
So my sister's turning 30 this year. Like we have a lot more in common. There's a lot
Yeah.
of commonalities there.
Hmm.
18 to 11 is like you
Yeah,
don't
they're
even
in a
yeah,
completely different stage of life. Like
yeah,
littlest one's in college, and I'm 25 and married, so it's like
yeah.
not even a not e- like she can't relate to me on anything, you know. So
Right.
I'll send her a text, and especially how young people text now, I'll send her a text, and she'll respond like 3 days later with like one word, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Oh,
You know,
man, I
like
didn't know that.
it's very different, just kind of stages of life. But dude, I've
I
really
didn't
enjoyed
respond
this.
right. If I didn't respond right away, I would forget.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah,
gone.
that's what you would think, and I think she just leaves everybody on, like, unread until she, like, feels like she wants to get to it, you know? They all Snapchat and do all these other
Yeah.
different forms of communication, um, but I've really, really enjoyed this, man. I have one final question for you that I kinda ask everybody. What are you, Brad, going to accomplish by any means necessary in your life?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I think I have an answer for like my business. Like, I want to accomplish a certain amount for Fat and Weird, and a lot of that's like coming to fruition. But just I want Fat and Weird to be easily accessible in like every major city. So, for that, but I think the more important one, truthfully, is that I am happy with my life already. And
Mhm,
so as long as I continue this trajectory and doing the things I enjoy doing and learning more about the way I think and again taking that external validation and input away from my life and just doing the things that make me happy and building those interpersonal relationships. I just want to keep on that path because I think that mentally I'm probably in a better state than I've ever been in my life. And
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome, man. Well, I have no doubts that you'll achieve all of those things, and getting to stay happy. That's a fantastic goal to have, because that means you've already kind of achieved, you know, the MVP of that kind of phase of your life. So
yeah,
it's everything that you guys do is phenomenal, and everything that you guys touch and work on it goes where you want to take it, and I think you've noticed that, and it seems like you guys are doing all the right things with Fat and Weird and all the other companies to get it where you want it to go. So it's been an
yeah.
absolute pleasure, dude.
Yeah, thanks
That's
for
all I
having
got
me.
for you. I
Yeah,
appreciate you setting
no.
aside the time. I know you're super busy.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll have to do it again sometime. Hopefully we can have Aubrey on here too at some point. That'd be really cool to get to kind of hear from both sides and kind of talk about that, do like a roundtable.
Yeah, maybe we can get Mike on here too, bring
Yeah,
it full
absolutely.
circle.
Yeah, we'll have to dim the lights a little bit with this head now. Go look at Instagram after this. Everybody should go look.
Okay,
Check him out.
let's do that.
He looks great. I'm just giving him a hard time. I have to, but
I mean, I've considered it. It'd be so much easier just to buzz my head. Like I've thought
yes, I
about it
have to.
multiple times. It's just like I hate getting haircuts. It's like waiting for the haircut, and like you have to make time to go get the haircut. It's like, man,
Yes.
I could just do this like every couple weeks, just buzz it and be done. But
Yeah, and they have those ones now that you can just kind of put in your palm and just like do it like while you're in the shower and just be like
yeah,
same exact shave every single day. Plus my
yeah,
hairline, I'm only 25 and my hairline looks like I'm about 40. So it is it's tough, man. I got the bad genetics there.
yeah.
But Brad, thank you so much. Looking forward to chatting again, man, and keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Right. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much if you made it this far for consuming the entire episode, no matter how you're watching, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on any type of audio platform. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully you guys got as much out of that conversation with Brad as I did. I know it was just getting to talk to him and bounce some of those ideas off of him. That was more of kind of just a selfish podcast where I got to ask a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask with somebody that's doing all of the things that I want to do. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. If you do want to help me to grow the show, sharing even just a timestamp from this episode, feel free to share the entire episode, but even just a timestamp can help somebody get exposed to kind of the content and what we're trying to do with the BAMcast. So it would mean the world to me if you would share it with a friend if you got something from this episode. And who knows, maybe they'll find the other episodes and get something out of those as well. If you do want to support Brad and all the things that he's got going on, it's all linked down in the subscription. If you want to support me or the show on a deeper level, I've got all of my links down below as well. But like I said, I appreciate you guys more than you know. And we've got a whole lot more really, really amazing guests just like Brad coming up soon. So make sure that you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or follow the show if you're on any type of audio platform to make sure that you don't miss those upcoming episodes. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.